Showtime. What
Yeah.
is up, everyone? It's Will, Mark, Missa. I kind of got it. Thank you
That's
guys
right.
all for joining us here today on a Tuesday morning or afternoon for some of you. As you guys know, we are having the Next Level Laser Conference in Grapevine, Texas, August 28th through the 30th. And we've been wanting to come on live and share our teachers who are going to be there, sharing their amazing skills and talents with all of you there. And today we are blessed to have Misa here, who's going to actually be one of our teachers. And this is her third time?
Yep, third time.
Third time teaching at the Next Level Laser Conference, and she's going to be teaching us photography. She's going to be teaching us how to produce better pictures of our products so that we can stand out amongst a busy crowd of people and makers and really showcase the talents that you guys have in making these products to actually have the photographs share that with people versus I make it great, but my photograph looks horrible and they don't really understand how great it looks. So um, I don't want to assume that everyone knows who Misa is. So Misa, if you want to do just a quick introduction of yourself and how long you've been lasering and taking photos, and definitely we'd love to hear a little bit about it.
Oh, thanks. Okay, so I'm Misa, and I own and operate Laser Designs by Misa. So I make and sell SVG files for laser users. And I got my first laser just to make some art back in 2019, and the pandemic hit, and we all dove into laser making. So many of us did. And I was selling earrings. I was just like, oh, this is fun. And in another life, I was a portrait photographer, and I took everybody's school kid photos, went around to all the schools. And anyway, I found that people were interested in my little crafts or, whatever I was making if my pictures weren't very good. And I often didn't like my photos, but I didn't understand why. And I just kept at it. And working as a portrait photographer, I knew some of the basics, but really felt passionate about making my work look good because then I got a better response. And then that passion just grew as more people asked me questions, and I kept wanting to improve and then share that knowledge with others. And that landed me this space right here, it seems, over the years. So.
Absolutely, man. Your photography is fantastic. And by the way, your design is fantastic too. Those go together really nicely. You do a great job. And I want to just highlight real quick. One of the things I think one of you said is in the beginning is at some point, even if your design is great or the thing you made is great, if the photo doesn't put it in the best light, and I mean that with all the puns intended, but if it doesn't put it in the best light, it'll be hard to sell it or hard to represent it properly. So that's why this topic and this class is so important. So we're really excited to learn from you. So when we got started talking here a minute ago, you had talked about last year, and you said that you got asked a lot of questions, and some of them kind of bubbled up to the top as being more common questions than others. Now you're not going to be able to cover all of them, but just off the top of your head, what are some of the most common ones? And then we'll get into actually your tips on those. But what are some of the questions that people ask you a lot about photography?
Yeah, that's great. And I did that Ask Me Anything booth, which was a super cool experience. I enjoyed it so much last year's conference. And what that did was really, brought to the surface, like you said, all these common repeated questions and pain points that the community was having around taking pictures. And I think the one that jumps to my mind first and foremost that everyone really has such a hard time with is tumblers and reflective items. Yeah. And as more people in the community, I think, are taking photos of jewelry and using fiber lasers and things like that, we're working more and more with reflective material. And so that's definitely one of the topics I really am excited to dive into at this year's conference. In fact, that experience at the Ask Me Anything booth really framed my presentation for this year because I heard so many repeated stories on similar topics. And I really was like, okay, we're having a lot of shared experiences and pain points. And so we should just dive into the top 10 or whatever they might be. So how to take photos of larger signs and items, that was a big one too. And as always, light, just trying to really understand and master light continues to be a huge topic for people because everybody's environment is different. And so I'm excited to kind of just break down light and increase just an understanding of how some of the science or basics work so that people can feel more comfortable mastering their specific situation, because, you know, we can give people do this, this, and this, but if your environment is 100% different than mine, like it's going to feel really defeating. So those are some that come to mind.
That's great. You know, what makes me think, I'm so excited to learn from you here and at the conference too, because there's a lot of things I can do better. And one of the things I think about, I'm not particularly good at photography, and I don't always know when I look at like a photo of my own, I know it's not good, but I don't know, I can't tell you why it's not good other than it isn't. And I'm looking forward to learning some of those, maybe learning to train my eye. Oh, that's what I'm looking at, you know, or that's what's missing. Other than just saying, hey, her photos are better than mine. I'm like, but I don't know why.
And that's
you know?
so frustrating, right? I think with any skill, I know that has left me feeling discouraged and defeated, and maybe even with thoughts like, oh, I'm the problem, right? Like maybe this isn't for me. And so I think the more that we can kind of move learning into those spaces and problem solve together, we'll all feel more successful and can solve those problems and keep the momentum going and not feel bummed out.
I love it. Will, I'll just pass the ball to you. Why don't you start by walking through some of those most common questions with Missa, and I'll jump in when I have some questions. And by the way, I've got a lot. So
definitely. And also to the people who are watching, if you guys have any questions, shoot them in the comments. We'll definitely try to find some time to get to those and we can answer them afterwards. But we'd love to hear some of the things that you guys have questions about too. We'd love to be able to answer those for you. So so what are some of the tips that you have for us today, Missa?
I was thinking of sprinkling in some fun things today, and I was thinking of I could share 3 tips that people could start using today, and maybe they're a refresher for some and maybe new information for others. But I was really thinking about light, and something that I did when I was just getting started and I was finding that my photos were too yellow or too blue, or like I was post-processing them and I'm like, oh, I just can't get it right. What's the deal? I'm taking the photos in the same window each time. And so this idea of kind of like tracking your light by the hour. And so I had a day where I was just going to be home all day doing laundry or whatever. And I had a photo set up in the spot that I wanted to take photos, and I set a timer, and on the hour, every hour as best I could, I took the same photo. And then I looked at the photos and the lights through the day and kind of found my ideal time of day. Now, of course, with daylight savings and as the seasons change, you kind of have to repeat that process. But it's just kind of a reminder that the sun is it's not a spotlight, it's a dimmer switch. And so you have to have the dimmer switch at the right intensity and color. And I'll get more into kind of the science of light at the conference, but finding that sweet spot and knowing what it is, you're going to have the best quality of light that isn't going to be too blue, or which is in the evening, or too yellow, which is first thing in the morning. So you're kind of looking for that midday light to shed off that extra color, because it will change the color of your product. And then someone will get it and be like, oh, I thought this was going to look a little different. And so I think getting it as accurate to the eye as possible is really important for consumer expectations.
That's really good. Let me ask you a question, because it was kind of hidden in there a little bit, so I'll ask about it. You talked about basically the way that the sun comes in through the window to the space that you're taking photos in, which makes me want to ask, tell me about the space you're taking photos in, right? Because Some people do or don't have access to a window, but those of us who do, and by the way, sorry, this is unscripted, so I'm just going to jump in there. What kind of recommendations do you have as far as being able to get into that light? You talked about the time of the day,
Right.
but being able to position yourself in the first place to get to that light.
Yeah, I think it's important, unless you're really trying to be strategic and cause dynamic shadows, which is great, but master the basic stuff first before we're trying to do I think other techniques. You really want a midday shade, right? Not deep into the forest, right? You don't want it really dark, but you don't want to be in direct sunlight. You're going to lose the diffuse shadows. If it's a cloudy day, fantastic. Those were always my favorite days, shooting senior photography in parks and stuff. The cloudy day, like, diffused the light and really softened all your shadows. And so the same is with product photography. And I think just getting comfortable being the weirdo, just carrying all your stuff around your house, your apartment complex, the neighborhood, the park, you know, just be that person. You know, searching for that spot. I've been out at a park on a tree stump, down on the ground, taking photos. I've set up the back hatchback of my car and put my stuff out there and done it. I go out to my backyard, open up the garage. Just, the sun is everywhere. So I think just being creative and unlimiting yourself to where you're kind of willing to, you know, be taking that photo, public or not, is my recommendation, and try to avoid that direct sunlight.
You make me think when you said going out to the park or wherever out in the apartment complex. At my last office, the outside the office, there was a separate building that was bathrooms, men's and women's bathrooms. And outside it, they had some bricks on the ground. And I really liked the way the bricks looked. And so I put some items down on the bricks, and big old 6'4" me was laid out on the grass with a camera pointing at, and for any distance at all away, you couldn't even see the thing I was taking a picture of. You just saw this giant Sasquatch of a man stretched across and it was hilarious. And one of my friends drove up and they was like, "What are you doing?" Because it looked like I was just laid out on the ground in front of the bathroom, which I was.
And the answer to that is I'm hustling my business.
That's right. That's right.
Like, I mean, I think sometimes it's embarrassing, it's messy, it's, you know, but I think we just got to take action and let go of whatever else.
Okay. Kelsey just said, because she's been there before, that was the least weird thing about your old office. Yes. Yes. It was quirky. It was quirky.
I missed that location. I actually enjoyed it.
I kind of do too.
Quite a bit.
I mean, it was all kinds of a mess, but I loved it. It was great. So I take your point to heart. You know, kind of do what you got to do to get the great photos. Go where you need to go. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's great. So
we
if
got a question here too,
please.
I've got a quick question from Kurt. He just asked, "Are you using a 35mm camera or your cell phone?"
Cell phone. Yep. I've taken maybe 5% of my photos with my DSLR, and it's great. And also, it takes time to move it over to my computer. I gotta, like, did I delete the stuff off the SD card? I am that maker that's got a ton of other stuff in her brain and to do, and I always have my phone in my pocket, and so I'm generally 100% using my iPhone.
That's great. You know, this is going to be random, but I remember a couple of years ago, I don't remember where you shared it, whether we were talking privately or publicly, I don't recall, but I've always admired your photography, and there is a lot of skill that you have going on, and a lot of that going on, but sometimes you're using very normal things to make great photos. And I remember one time you showed me, I'm going to make up which one it was, I don't remember, but you had like a can of beans or something, a can underneath something else to raise it up. Yeah. Yep. I don't recall what it was, but I remember you showed the overhead shot and then this shot. I was like, oh my gosh, I've got those. I can do that. that kind of, yeah, it was
Yeah,
great. And I just,
it's one of my favorites.
yeah. And that just kind of, took some of the, in a good way, took some of the magic or the, I'm not using the right words, but it took some of the mystery away. It was like, oh, I can do that. And so that's what I really
Yeah.
appreciate about a lot of your tips is really
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I have in the past, and I hope to keep doing it more so too. Like sharing the mess,
Yeah.
sharing the. I did one recently and had like some gummy vitamins, like
Yeah.
underneath, and I had like spilled them on the floor and then put them under, like can of soup
Yeah.
or whatever. Just if you
Yeah.
understand the concept you're trying to achieve, then how to do it and what you use just becomes less of a mystery. um so
Do
yeah.
you do you use when you take your photography, I think you do some post editing. What
Mhm.
software or apps or what do you use to do that post editing?
I love Lightroom, the mobile app. I used it for many years, the free version, until
Mhm.
I finally upgraded to all the things. And so you can do a large majority of the editing that you need in the free version. There's some cool things about the paid version, like being able to copy an edit and then
Okay.
tap other photos and then paste the edit to them, and
Oh,
not going one by one by one by one. Just for optimizing workflow, that's probably one of my favorite things. And they've got some AI editing features now that are really cool. But by and large, I had saved some styled edits, settings that I really liked. And
yeah.
you can just kind of make your own Instagram filters, sort of. And so I just titled them, and I would just use those presets and get a pretty consistent edit across the majority of my photos. Which this isn't on my list, but that's something I've shared in the past. I think having a consistent style or way that you're editing is important. May feel boring to a certain extent, especially if you like to do real stylized photos, but it it builds brand trust and consistency when people can look at your photos and your layouts and see a common thread. They
Yeah.
know it all belongs to you, which has been very important for me as a file designer, because there's so much,
Yeah.
people are stealing photos, and I think that happens for physical products as well. And you get into a shop and you just see all the photos look different, or all the formatting looks different, and I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
think this is the original artist here. And so I
Yeah.
think when we have that consistency, even inadvertently, we're building brand trust with the viewer, because they're like, okay, yeah, this person does this is theirs, because it's all the same.
I think you're absolutely right. You touched on something when you said, I think you said Instagram filter, and it made me think of another question. And I know, by the way, you've got other things that you're going to teach us, but I'll ask this one while I'm thinking about it. When you're taking photos, especially with your phone, are you taking them both? What ratio are you taking them at? Because I'll
Mhm.
kind of jump ahead. Is occasionally when I found myself, oh, I'll take a picture that's say square, and then later I go, I really needed that wider. Or what is your
Mhm.
approach to the ratio and what you're taking, and also what you're letting into the frame in the original photo versus what you're going to edit later? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think especially if there's a potential for needing to do a horizontal, which I generally am doing vertical or square,
Mhm.
but I'm shooting in a vertical ratio, and I'm leaving more room. And this is actually one of the tips that I have
Okay.
so it doubles on here, but um, is to take the photo with more room than you think you need. Sometimes
Yes.
I've got my dining room table, you can see in the corner, like you don't need to take the perfect photo the first time. You can rotate, you can crop, and that way you at least have the freedom to be
Yeah.
able to choose a couple of different orientations after the fact, instead of having to have that all mapped out ahead of time. Of course, if you're originally taking the photo, let's say for Etsy or for Instagram, or right, like you can think about your media in mind and kind of start there. But I think always give yourself a little bit more room than you think that you need. Unless you've got a tripod set up at the perfect level angle, right? You may need to rotate, you may need to make those adjustments. And I've not done that and had to reshoot because I didn't have any wiggle room. And now I've used all this potentially money-making time redoing work. And it's just not a fun experience.
And I don't know if this will apply to anybody else here, but occasionally for me, I'll be making like, say, a YouTube cover image, and I wished that I had a whole bunch of room around the subject so I could put like some text over here or something. And then I'm like, man, but because I cropped so far in, it was very difficult for me to not cover up the item. So I'm still learning. Hey, first of all, I don't know why I act as though this is film that I bought at the drugstore that I'm paying for. You know, like I can take as many pictures as I want, right? I act like, I don't know why I do that. And I don't know why, I kind of like you intimated, is I don't need to have the first one be the last one.
Right.
I can take a wide photo and then crop in on it. And I also learned, unless I'm absolutely certain, no need to delete the first one.
Yeah, be sure.
Yeah. So go ahead and run with some other more of that one, or some other ones if you'd like to share with us.
Yeah. So you need a little bit more room in your setup to do this, but along the same, and I think I touched on this last year in the presentation, but along the same lines, like you're giving your product more breathing room. That includes how much space around, but that also includes your props. You don't need to have everything under the sun jammed in there. A couple, one or two well-placed props is really all that you need. But is to try using your two times zoom when you're taking photos, because it changes the lens in which your camera is using on your phone, and you're going to get less distortion. I don't know if you ever do the like zoom out real good on your phone and it almost looks a little fisheye, or right, like so different lenses on your phones they have different distortions, and so the 2 times zoom actually brings it a little closer to what the human eye lens is going to perceive. And so you're going to have less distortion, and it's going to be more natural to the eye. And if you're having those moments of like, I don't know what's wrong here, something doesn't look right, but I'm not sure what it is, you best believe that your customers are also going to have those experiences as well. And they're not going to be like, yeah, I don't know if it's just because that prop is placed in a funny spot. They're just going to have like light heebie-jeebies and keep scrolling. And so you just want like the feel-good reactions less than the like, something's not right to my eye. I mean, we're creatures of nature. So if something's off visually, we have a primitive response to it. Like something just doesn't feel good about that. And so anyway, yeah, I think stuff, little things like that, and psychology of our customers that are viewing our photos, I think it's important. So too close and distorted or weird garbled AI stuff is gonna be spooky for customers.
Yes, like how many fingers?
Yes. If I see one more muddled pine cone, I'm gonna freak out.
Yeah.
I know one thing Misa said to me years ago that I took to heart was, your photos are creating an emotion, right? It's either an emotion where they're excited about seeing that product in their home, or like you said, the other way, like, oh, something's just not right. And they're just going to move away from that picture. So I think that's important when you're looking at, you want that picture to pull you into that product, right? As we're endless scrollers, we're just endless scrollers. And if it doesn't catch us, we're not going to look. Or if it's something that we don't want to look at, we're going to move along from that a lot faster. So catching their attention and keeping their attention is important. Got a question here from Kelsey. It's a little, okay, it's not covering most of us, but Do you have any tips or resources to point us to for learning Lightroom more in depth? Or do you have any you do yourself? I'm learning it on my own, but really want to dive into some things I'm stuck on.
Yeah, I can uh share a couple resources. I don't have the URLs offhand. I know that we've all kind of worked with replica surfaces here
Mhm.
off and on, but Mandy put together a really good a basic Lightroom
Mm,
tutorial on their YouTube station too. So I can kind of shoot those and maybe we can pop them into
that'd be great.
the comment feed too. Um, yeah, it's hard because it's a big program and it's got a desktop version, right? And people are using it for all kinds of things. And so it, for me anyway, it could get overwhelming because I just need to know a small portion of the tasks that it's capable of.
Yeah.
And then you get these big tutorials and it makes my brain want to slide out of my head.
Yes. Absolutely.
So that was a good one. It was digestible the way
Yeah.
she put it together. And it's about product photography. So it was at least nice that way.
Yeah,
I'm not
that's
do
That's what I
mountains.
was thinking too. In the same way that when you learn Illustrator, there's a bunch of things going on there that are not relevant to lasers at all.
Yeah.
So in the case of Mandy's teaching, it's all about product photography.
Yeah.
So it all
Yeah.
fits.
Absolutely. I want to go back to something that Will has said about the emotion and I think I think it's a great exercise also for all of us when we're either on Instagram or like let's say we're scrolling Etsy or some marketplace, like notice your reactions to the marketing photos that you're being bombarded with every day. And instead of just mindlessly like pushing through them, right? Like notice what turns you off and notice what you really drawn to. If you're pausing on something, think about why and how could you apply maybe some of those techniques to what you're doing as well. And I'm not saying copy it, but let's say you like this, you pause on this light, airy, clean kind of look, right? Like maybe that's something you want to give a shot with your own voice.
That's great. I know in the same way that I do this with design, I do it with photography. Also, I'm just way behind on the photography learning curve. But I would encourage people to have a list of people that they look at for, again, like you said, we're not copying, but I'm saying, hey, what does a good photo look like?
Mhm.
And like I can show you ones that what a good photo doesn't look like, but we're not looking for that. But it's nice to be able to see someone in the same industry that you're in doing something well, so you go, oh, that context helps me, I understand. And
Yeah.
so I refer people to you all the time, I mean, look at her photography, it's great. And yours is a great example of how you take a great design but put it in a great light. And so I do that all the time, and I recommend that people have a list of those they reference just to say, hey, I got to remember what a good photo looks like. So that helps a lot.
Yeah. We
You want to
don't,
grab Mikey's question? Oh, go
yeah.
ahead.
We don't learn anything if we stay in a bubble, right? So
No,
right,
no,
so we're constantly if we're exposed to new ideas and ways of thinking things, right, like we're just inviting growth and yeah,
yeah,
if we're just looking at this blinders on this one thing that I'm doing, like we're never going to expand. So yeah, I think
no,
that's all that is looking outside.
absolutely. You want to grab that
Got a
question from
question
Mikey?
here
That's a
from
good one.
Mikey. Yeah. Do you have any advice on keeping your photography library organized? Mine can become a hot mess in my photo app.
Chaos. No, I'm Hot Mess Express with that as well. I mean,
Yeah,
like I don't know what phone platforms everybody, Android versus iPhone or whatnot. I have an iPhone, and so I do try to keep albums and try to keep up on adding albums and adding those photos to that album and then just letting my um regular because they're duplicates in the albums, but it's hard. Or I'll just use the like you can heart different ones on the iPhone and then it puts it sort of in your favorites, right? I do like Lightroom and like many apps where when I download them to my camera roll, it also puts them in a Lightroom folder. So at least I have anything that I've ever brought into my device that was edited on Lightroom is in one folder, which is searchable by date. That helps. But I think it's hard. And when I take photos of things, I'm often taking anywhere from 25 to 100 photos in one sitting. So yeah, I think I have 80,000 photos in my camera roll.
Well, you'll catch up to Kelsey at some point, apparently. What did Kelsey say? She said she has 260,000 in iCloud.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So, man, hashtag
Yes.
photo goals. That's
Yeah,
so great.
Delete photos.
Yes, absolutely. You kind of said something a little bit in jest, but I wanted to point this out for myself. Again, on the quantity of photos, I've found myself, I'll set up a photo area. I'll take a couple of photos and then I'll walk away. And then I realize, man, you should have taken several more. Because now I got to go back again, So I'm trying to teach myself, take 3 or 4 of that same angle, change the angle a little bit, take some more. Yeah, I think this angle's probably not it, but I'll grab it just in case.
Yeah.
Don't act like I'm gonna run out of film or run out of iCloud storage, Kelsey.
Right. And you can.
But I have found myself where I go back and I wish I had the photo that I didn't take.
Right. Yeah. And I think unless you're ready to like look at the photo, decide it's the one, and then walk away. Yeah. Take a few more. Don't take down the setup unless you're 100% sure you got what you needed. I try to take my photos and at least go in, look at them, maybe try to edit 1 or 2 of them to make sure that I was thoughtful enough about the light and that I can tweak it the way that I want. And if that looks good, then I'm free to go about my business. But yeah, I think some grace though. We all have a million things to do, and
for sure. I don't know, it's my ADD or whatever, but sometimes I will disassemble the photo area for no reason at all. Like, I don't know, it's not like it's in my way, So sometimes I've just got to tell myself, hey, you can actually go get some lunch and leave it there. It's okay,
I'll send you a sticky that says hands off.
Yeah.
Leave it alone.
Right.
Put it on your setup.
That's funny. We've in a somewhat related thing here at the office, whenever we get done with I've learned this the hard way. When I get done with the design and I've taken some photos, sometimes somebody will come to my office and say, hey, I want to give that design away, like the item that I just finished. Oh yeah, you can have this. And I've given it away like an hour after I took the last photo. That is a dumb idea because I almost always have to take another photo. Like slow down. Then the item's actually gone. It's gone.
Right.
I can't take another photo.
And that's just.
Yeah, I know. Right. Did we have any other questions before she gets to any other tips? Did we have any other questions that we had missed, Will?
Oh, but I have a question. So I know you talk about natural light shade. For those who don't have access, like for me here inside my warehouse, the light just doesn't come in well at in any area. What do you use, or what would you recommend for some artificial lights to kind of recreate that same look?
Yeah. So if you're not willing to just go to your doorstep, right? Everybody has a doorstep. Really,
I'm assuming
the apartment building has a doorstep. The house has a doorstep. Like most people have a doorstep. So, if the parking lot's off limits, Will.
Yes, when it's 100 degrees outside, I don't go outside. I'll just take pictures in the dark.
That's true. Yeah, I've been out on my front stairs, like.
Yeah.
My neighbors are like, "What is happening?" Yeah, I mean, I think that. So there's so many different types of, lights you can get off Amazon and things like that. I think that the biggest thing that people maybe miss or maybe that I've missed in the past is that you're looking for a certain capacity for that light. And that is going to be, you want the color of sunlight, the ability to get the correct Kelvins, which I think is around, I'm going to misquote it now because I didn't write it down, but it's like 5,600 Kelvins, which is going to be your color. And then you need a certain amount of lumens, which is going to be, is it bright enough? Now, if you're taking pictures of tiny little things, you don't need something crazy Like you don't necessarily need big light. If let's say you just do earrings or something, or you just do ornaments or keychains, or right, like you could get away with something smaller. And so I think when you know some of those details, then you can more easily pick a light that's going to fit with your space. And I think again, right, like a flashlight is a spotlight. It's not diffuse. That's that direct sun source that's going to give you more shadows. The closer it is to your subject, the harsher the shadows are going to be. The further away, or if you've got it behind something to diffuse it, whether that's a white piece of paper or an actual soft box, right? You're going to soften your light. So I think come to the conference is the answer to the question, and you know, really dig into the basics of light and maybe some advanced ideas about light, so that you will have all the knowledge and skills to select the perfect light source for your space.
Go ahead, Will. I feel another question coming. I can see it on your face.
Oh no, I'm thinking I should walk outside.
Yeah, you just get one of those hats with the little fans that point towards your face, and you'll be all set.
There you
Yeah,
go.
that's great. So you have some other. I know you got a couple more that you mentioned to us. What other tips do you have for us?
I think one of the things that really helped me the most, and especially early on, is I found kind of a layout, a format, if you will, a formula for how I wanted to style the photo or do the props or whatever. And I did not deviate. I just took photos in this same way, honestly, until there was nothing else to learn or perfect or change, right? And then I moved on to like more creative things. And so I think it can be really overwhelming thinking about all the different ways you could bring in props or do lighting and all these other techniques, and all of that is fun, but we ride the bike before we race the bike. And I think that I really focused on just riding the bike, and getting a set formula down. All my photos were consistent. So very, very early on, people would be like, I knew that was yours before I even looked at the name.
Yes. Yep.
I got messages like that very, very early on. And as I had this formula, and that included where I took the photos in the house, the editing I did, but also just, what was I doing? I went to like Cost Plus World Market and got a bunch of cloth napkins, and then like laid it down. And then I kept pruning my cedar tree from the backyard. And I put because I was doing a lot of ornaments, and like a cedar frond across that. And I just took it the same way repeatedly. And so I didn't need to learn 80% of what I know now to be taking photos that went well and got me some brand recognition. And so I think that, yeah, sometimes we keep it simple at first and really just master that one recipe before we move on to doing all the crazy stuff.
I'm laughing because I've seen so many of your photos and they're all so great. What you're just describing, I'm thinking, if I pulled up one of your photos, I'd go, oh my God, Missa, that is a stick and a napkin. And it looks so good, and because when I can't remember where, it was probably at one of the conference. It might have been the first conference you did with us. I don't recall, but I remember looking at the props you had and thinking, I have a lot of the same props, and my pictures are not the same. Like, so I've got a lot to learn because all the pieces are in front of me. I just got to learn how to compose them or that kind of thing. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a lot of trial and error, I think, right. Yeah. We're not sharing all our bad photos when we're trying to make sales, right?
Right.
Right. But we're picking the best of what we, right? Like of what we're capable of at that time. And, like I'm every time I take photos, I'm learning something.
Sure.
And there's 50 photos, right, that in that one shoot that I was like, ugh. You know, I've physically cried over being so frustrated on photos, and so, like, sure, I share things that look nice, but I am not void of struggle and frustration and what feels like failure sometimes. And my husband will just try to navigate as far away in the house as possible. He just hears my it's like, are you okay?
And tell me if this reflects you or not, but I think that what I've learned from you, what I've watched, is actually all the tools are well within my reach.
Mhm.
Well within my reach. I don't need to spend a ton of money on a camera. So as I learn more tips from people like you, I think everyone can. If you're out there watching this and your photography is not very good, let me tell you, it's not as far away as you think. You
No,
think it's a million miles away, and it's not. It's not financially that far away. It's not technologically that far away. You really can do it, and I just appreciate that, because you're with just a few tips and techniques, it can look way more sophisticated than it actually is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I think just understanding some of the mechanisms and the formulas, and you know, A plus B equals C, right? Like, I think some of those basic things, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But then it's nice because then you can just keep applying those formulas into different situations, instead of just relearning every photo shoot. Which is also frustrating, because, you know, we're not getting paid to be product photographers. Like, that's not our jobs. Like, that's not our hustle. And so this is like an essential supplement, you know, like having a website or loading listings on Etsy, right? Like, those aren't our professions. So it can be hard when we have to master all these other things to be able to do the thing that we're actually wanting to do. But it's a big one. It's your first look at what people are seeing that. And if it's not, and most of us are posting on social media or online. And if our customer can't physically touch our item to be able to see all of those things, then it has to come through in a photo.
Yeah. It's, you know, it's the whole, if you make this beautiful product, you spent all this time to make it perfect, and you say this is a 10, and your photo depicts it as a 2. As a consumer, what do I see it as? I see it as a 2, and I'm never buying it.
Right.
Right. So this is your first introduction to that customer, as far as this is the product, and the whole, it looks better in person doesn't translate in a picture. You can't put that on your Etsy listing, right? Looks better in person.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean,
don't mind the picture.
Exactly. So if mine's a 10, I really, at least it's got to be a 9 in the photo. Like, it's got to be that margin of error, right? It's got to be.
Yes.
And gosh, how defeating, right? Because most of us, I assume, are doing this because we like it, and that we like creating, right? And so I think to pour yourself into making something and spend a lot of time, or to really enjoy, right? Like, that's time you could have been spending with your family or golfing or doing other things, right? And so then for you to produce something that you're excited about, and for it to be a 10, and for people to see it as a 2, it's like, right? And we start to get really funky about that. I mean, I know I'm susceptible to that, when it's like, come on, really? And it's easy to take it personally. Like, okay, it must be, maybe I'm not good at this. Maybe I don't have the eye. Like, I think this is a 10, but everybody's telling me it's a 2. Like, I'm getting gaslit by my product photography. So yeah.
I mean, yeah, if you're doing it for fun, or you have a passion, you want to create amazing products, you want that to be shown. And the other part too, we're all trying to make money, right? And if your product looks horrible, it's not selling, right? Because there is enough people out there who are taking the time, investing in their knowledge to produce a great product that's going to catch that consumer's eye. And if your worried about sales. I see people who make amazing things and they say, hey, but my sales are not there. And then you look at the pictures. That's the first thing we always look at. You can
Mhm.
see why people aren't stopping, why people are not interested in your product. And if you want to make money and you want to sell your product, which is what a lot of us are doing, you
Mhm.
need to present it in a way that makes people want to buy it.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
You had two other tips that I know that you had in store here. One for taking photos of larger items, I believe, and then
Oh
another
yeah.
one about reflective items too. We didn't really talk a lot about that.
Yeah, because
Um,
I mean, those actually weren't supposed to necessarily be the tips for today, but those are going to be
oh,
what we dive into at the conference.
just a little
Because
teaser then. Yes.
well, these are, yeah, because I think what came out of what came out of the conference again were those repeated pain points. I think, yeah, I spent hours upon hours talking to people about reflective surfaces
Yeah.
and things like that, and larger, and then also like photos on the go. um like maybe, yeah, like maybe you have more of a, depending on what your product is, you're kind of like moving around and you need to be able to do that. So I
Yeah.
think that's what I've structured this year's conference class to be around, is to just really dive into some of the overarching pain points that people are experiencing.
I love it. You want to grab? I see several other things we can throw up there. Will, you want to grab a couple? I also highlighted Blake's from earlier. I missed that one.
Okay, yeah, I'll throw up Blake's up there real quick. Trying to start fresh with product photos and being organized for storage. How do you organize them in a way that they can easily be paired with products and even current photos?
uh,
I think he's asking about.
yeah,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, please continue.
Yeah. No. So fresh. Blake, you might need to give us a little more definition there, just so we know for sure what you're asking. The way they could be pair of products. Yeah, let us know more for sure what you're talking about there, because I have a guess, but I'm not totally sure. Um,
All right.
I appreciate what Sam said. Sam's just got a
Yep.
nice compliment there.
Oh,
Thank you all three for being so real. As someone who struggles with ADD, time management, and imposter syndrome, this makes it feel more manageable, and that yes, I can do it too.
oh,
You
good.
absolutely can.
And you make
Yes,
such beautiful things, so I believe
you
in you.
do.
Mhm.
Yes,
And
so
I
good.
was thinking about this too, is investing the time to learn these tips and invest in yourself to be able to produce these great photos, because we spend so much time. I see how much time you guys spend on creating these beautiful products, right? If it's hand
Yeah.
painting certain things, if it's getting every single detail right, and if it wasn't right, you would just restart. Yet I see the same people then throw up a subpar photo.
Yeah.
Like you have to, it's there's so much weight to all of this. We spend time to create an amazing product, showcase it in its best light,
Hmm.
and photography is that opportunity for you. So invest in yourself and take into consideration too, like Misa says, if you're taking hundreds of pictures and you're editing, that's your time should be compensated for when you're looking at what your pricing is for your products, because
Hmm.
that is part of your production. Just because we
Mhm.
created this project with painting, that's not the end of it. Listing it, just like if for something for me, shipping it,
Hmm.
taking photos, editing, all of that is taking up time, and your time should be compensated for that.
Right.
So consider that too on how, and you'll get better as you go, but definitely consider managing your time as well. Um,
Yeah. Before you move on, well, it just reminds me
yes,
too that I think that like you can't unlearn. Like you're not going to get bonked in the head between every single photo shoot or every time you learn something, right? So that
Right.
knowledge compounds, and you'll keep learning, but you're not going to unlearn each time. So the investment sticks around, and then it keeps growing in the bank. And I think as long as you're participating in it, right, like your brain is going to keep a hold of it, and it's
Hmm.
only going to be as hard as it is today if we're engaged in that learning. And tomorrow I'll have new things to be considering, and right, like the momentum will just kind of keep going. And so
Yeah,
I think it's totally worth it. Just all that
that's
investment.
really good. I see that. I think I know
You
what
got to be
Blake's asking
careful
now.
here, though.
Oh, go ahead.
Bobby's eyeing your camera, so careful for that. I think I saw a picture of you guys at your meetup
Yeah.
this last weekend. So yeah,
Yep.
he's on the prowl for your camera.
Well, and I will refer you, Bobby, to Nick Magnuson's class on photography on using video, because he is the one. He lives here in Tulsa, and he came to my office, and I paid him to help me set all this up, and he gave me recommendations on what camera to buy and all this kind of stuff. So he's definitely for hire for that. But his class is going to be great as well. So if you want to
Not the same
have a
camera.
better looking, better camera helps a ton. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Etsy allows for like those short videos now, and I think like video is a great way to help showcase your and supplement to your product photography. It's a little different, right? I'm not talking about like of your product, right? And you can see the dimensionality of it, maybe the size a little bit better. All that information is pretty important when you're trying to cash in on a sale.
Absolutely.
Okay,
So
and I think you were following up on Blake's, correct?
Yeah, so I see what he's asking. He's asking about organizing. This is similar to photos, but he's asking about organizing files. He said it, files and folders. That your answer to this one, Misa, may be the same as the photography. I'm not sure, but do you have a particular way to organize your files and folders?
Depends on the day and the wind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, also I've got ADD, and I'm the hot, like keeps me creative, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have things just organized by project or type of design if I'm doing things in a series. So I'll have all oval designs in this one category, or all groupings and in that way. But I mean, I think we have to like really think about how our own brain works, and notice what we wish we did in the moment that we're frustrated, and then do that thing. And so it's kind of hard for me because my organized chaos doesn't necessarily always work for somebody else's organized chaos. So yeah,
I'll add a tip that I know is great that a lot of us could use, and I am not using it, but I've used it a little bit. I know on the Mac and also on Windows, I've checked, they both have a file tagging system that you can use.
true.
And you just tags, and everybody knows what tags are in other contexts. And you could just, on a Mac, you can just open up any file, and you can add a tag or as many tags as you want, separate them by commas. And so you could tag a file, for example, you could tag it Christmas, oval, plants, tag it a bunch of things. And then all you have to do is just pull up the tags, and it pulls up all your files that are tagged to those things.
Yeah.
None of us have an excuse to not do that. I just don't. I mean, here's my excuse. I have so many files that take me forever to catch up. But the reality is I could just start now going forward, and at least I'd have something, right? But check it out. Tags are really great. You can tag groups of files, at least on a Mac. I know you can. You can select, 10, 15. You can select a bunch and add the same tag to all of them.
Oh, that's nice.
So like, for example, you could, if you guys, like, let's say you buy from Misa, you could tag all of her files with her name.
Yeah.
And so if you say, I want to pull up all of her stuff, maybe this is common. You have one of Misa's files, but you can't remember what it's called. You don't remember the name of it. And you're thinking, oh, it's got the little dangly things. Oh my gosh, what is that called? And so if you tagged it by the designer, that could help you find it faster.
Yeah.
You could also, again, tag it by the season or by the style or that kind of thing. Yeah. So Blake, check that out and see. I think it's worth it.
With having, at least two questions along the same kind of organizational line. Yeah. And then also thinking about Sam's comment too. It's hard.
It is hard.
And like we share in the difficulty
We do.
with it, and we're all kind of figuring it out and trying to find success, or maybe even finding success sometimes. So like most people, I think, in these struggles are not the odd duck out. You're not missing something. I'm sorry, but you're not missing something like magical. It's just sometimes like it's sometimes these things are hard and a pain.
That's so good. Thank you for saying yes. Yep, absolutely. We're all in the same place a lot of times. Or if we're not there now, we were there 5 minutes ago. We're not far ahead of you. I tell people a lot of time when they ask me, "Oh man, I'd love to sit in your office and just learn from you." When I go, "Well, I don't know what you do after the first 5 minutes." I'm, but yeah, we're not as far ahead or even ahead at all at times, depending on what we're talking about. So this is great.
Yeah.
Well, this is excellent. We've got only a couple minutes left. Let's see if we can get to any more questions. And then also, Missa, if you just want to think while we're looking for more questions, if there's any like one encouragement or one tip or whatever that you'd like to leave everybody with, that would be great. So just think about that for a second. Will, I know that there was a couple of questions there. Oh yeah, well, I'm just going to put this. I appreciate this one. Victor said, "I get to the point where I don't want to see the piece anymore. I have started to put it to the side when done and wait for a week before the other stuff with fresh eyes." Totally get that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've done that with photos. I like walk away. I just have to walk away. Or
Walk
art,
away.
like you just have to step away and then come back. Because when we're tired or frustrated, we can't be creative or critical thinkers. And so give it a break.
Not at all. Not at all. Yep.
I'm going to throw up Misa's website. I want,
Yeah.
if you guys are looking, most of you know, but if you guys are looking for some designs, some amazing designs, and you want to take a look at her pictures as well, on her work, bymisa.net. Support those who support the community. So definitely go out there, check it. The animal ornaments are a big hit.
Yeah, the noodle dogs.
The doodles, and the dingles.
Doodles and dingles. Wow.
I'm bringing the dingles back. The dingle queen.
I wonder if we're ready.
It's
been 5 years. I wonder if we're ready for more. Probably not. I think we're gonna stick with it.
I'm just ready I'm ready for clipping out the audio of Will saying I'm bringing the dingles back. I'm going to use that as a ringtone. That's going to be great.
There you go.
Only if we can throw it into AI and like make a song.
Absolutely. I'm on it. Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
That's great.
I think my one little message of encouragement is none of us were like born a product photographer, right? All of this is stuff to learn, and depending on what your life looks like and what your priorities are and what things are in front of you, growth in that area might just come differently than others. And by and large, most of us are interacting with each other on social media and media platforms. And so you're going to see the pretty stuff and not as much the mess, or the failures, or all those little growth opportunities that feel like failures in the time. So you're not alone. It's we're all just trying to flex these muscles and like build knowledge in these different areas. And again, everybody kind of has a different life, and we're going to learn these things in a different pace and in a different way. So the community is great and so supportive. And I know that my inbox is open to people, whether it's just trying to like, why isn't this working? Or please confirm that I'm a mess and you're a mess and we're all messes and it's all okay. I'm happy to do those things because it's life and it's real and it's messy and it's fun. And
I love it. Yeah. Man, well, thank you so much for spending time with us. This is always so good. So if you are watching this later on demand, or if you got here late, had to leave early, no worries whatsoever. If you've got questions, drop them in the chat. We'll do our best to keep up with them and to answer them. We'll try to funnel some to Missa if there's questions that she doesn't see. We would love to, all three of us would love to support you and to invest in you in this community. And if you can join us at the conference, it's going to be great. It's in Grapevine, Texas, August 28th through the 30th. August 28th is my 33-year anniversary wedding. No gifts, but thank you. But it's going to be great. So go to nextlevellasерevents.com and check it out. Grab your tickets. We would love to see you guys there. Thank you again for spending time on your Tuesday. We're really thankful for it. Take care of yourselves and let us know how we can help you. And until then, we will see you in all the groups. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. Thanks for coming. Thanks, Missa. You stick around. The rest of you guys, we'll see you in the groups. Talk to you later.